Hello, DC. That's right, it's me, mayoral candidate Rhonda Hamilton, and I am asking for you to write me in on November the 8th. That's right, when you go to cast your vote, whether you vote early or whether or not you wait until November the 8th, I'm asking you to write me in. Write me in is as simple as RHONDA Hamilton to be the next mayor for Washington, D.C. You know we've got some work to do out there. 4 more years of the same, you told me, just would not work. So let's talk about that. The overall systems that are currently in place, we can't say that they're all working for all of our Washingtonians. So if you're out there and you just don't understand why we would want to overhaul the system, it's because if you look to your right and your left, you would understand that it's time for equality for all DC residents and citizens. And let's face it, don't our children deserve to live in a DC where they will inherit the right to sit at the table and have the discussions that are going to be necessary? Our democracy warrants that we keep having the discussion. And that's why yours truly was sworn in on July 1st. Didn't have a lot of time, but I sure did have a lot of fun meeting so many of you out there on the trail. And I am continuing to have fun as our write-in campaign begins. That's right, on November the 8th, or if you're voting early, I'm asking if you will vote yours truly in by writing me in. That's right, Rhonda, RHONDA Hamilton. Well, let's talk about my agenda for day one. Let's talk about the reality of needing to overhaul the overall systems in our communities that are just not working. Well, we talked a little bit about the mental health if you've been following me, but today I want to talk to you about lopsided governing. That's right. Lopsided governing threatens the equality that we need to make certain that as human beings, that we are being kind, considerate, and respectful to one another. Doesn't matter and should never matter how much money's on the table. As human beings, we're supposed to always care about the next man, at least keep things fair. Our children should inherit a DC that is going to be accountable to its citizens. Our children should inherit a DC that is operating with integrity. And we can't necessarily say that that's the case present day, can we? Well, you decide. Lopsided governing is so dangerous to all of the major headlines that we see before us. And my God, we're just barely out of a pandemic, and boy, did we go through it. God bless our beautiful Black and brown families who experienced much of the loss in our pandemic, but God bless all families that experience loss and is continuing to do so as we continue to strive forward to be a healthy DC. I want you to know that I'm concerned as an advocate for the people, for the lack of humanity that we see day in and day out here in our dear nation's capital. That's right. Out on that campaign trail, there were so many folks who wouldn't even look at you. They walked by, they didn't want to be greeted. Where is the humanity in that? I guess that explains why it's been so easy for many to walk past all of the homelessness that is occurring in our city. Did you know that on average it's taking 5 and in some cases 10 years? I have no idea why a city so robust in commercial building would have a 5 to 10 year waiting list. It's wonderful right here at election time to see so many affordable housing projects come up, especially, did you read what I read that in Ward 1 they just got a huge award for affordable housing? Imagine that. I don't guess it has anything to do with the fact that in the primaries our dear mayor lost in Ward 1, the only ward she lost, while our dear Ward 8 still struggles to receive the adequate housing that's needed. We got to talk about these things because democracy warrants that public office is supposed to be about the people, and by people, it should always include community. Well, let's talk about the guns that are going off and the lack of public safety across the city. We are the nation's capital, and the budget that maintains our dear law enforcement is large enough that we can do something better about this crime. There has to be political will as well as the input and respect between the community and our law enforcement community. And because I am a product of this great city, I am the first to stand forward and say that Officer Friendly was very much a part of the village that helped me to sit before you today. And I would like that to be the reality for all of our children. And so that warrants that we have comprehensive, responsible, and accountable conversations amongst the community and all of the elected officials involved with making sure that matters of public safety in the nation's capital are accountable and transparent to the people for which it serves. I intend to ensure that that will be the case. Youth poverty. 2 words, and I'll keep saying that should never go together. We have some beautiful educators in our nation's capital. We have beautiful culture and we're rich with heritage, but yet we have youth that are struggling in our town, and it is important that we all come together. And that's why democracy warrants that we usher in change when public office is no longer representative of the people, all of the people. Our 131 communities deserve our full and undivided attention and political will. We cannot afford for lopsided governing to continue to influence the outcomes of so many lives for the negative. The corporate influence in this town must be reined in. There's a lack of law enforcement. There's a lack of policy enforcement. There are just lacking understandings across our current government's operations. Just because our city is starting to be beautiful day in and day out with so much building does not mean that all district residents are impacted as a result of the economic growth. What it does mean is that we appear to be pricing out our dear seniors and our precious families that cannot afford to keep up with the nature of building and the cost of living in the nation's capital. I am concerned that all district residents don't have access to the economic growth in our city. And yes, we will continue to talk about it until that changes. You see, I am DC. You are DC. We together are DC. And it is imperative that we speak up and exercise our input when our city no longer works for us. It is not okay not to vote. It is not okay to give up. What will we teach our children if we don't continue to exercise the democracy that the Constitution affords us? Well, there are many families in this great city that can relate to diabetic understandings, cancer realities. Many of our children and community members suffer with asthma. Well, when we have such a heavy presence of slumlord realities where rodents and bugs and mold are allowed to be a part of the living environments of which our Washingtonians are living, then it is very important that we address the reality of the health inequities in our nation's capital. You see, the social determinants that are impacting far too many lives for the negative have to be addressed. And so when we don't have accountable leadership, these are the kinds of things that don't get discussed. I intend to win on November the 8th, but not without your help. I need to be written in. My name is Rhonda, R-H-O-N-D-A. Hamilton is my last name. I would appreciate it greatly if you would help me to continue conversations as important as this one throughout the rest of the campaign and beyond November the 8th. I want you, DC, to get ready to serve right alongside me as we change our dear city for the better. Government for the people is supposed to work for the people. I'm Rhonda Hamilton. Would you write me in on November the 8th so that we can begin to restore our beautiful city to its citizens? No one should be priced out. How many more buildings have to go up in order that the homelessness is addressed? Why make the laws if you're not going to enforce them? And is it just me, or is it time to clean up that mess down there? Well, I intend to do just that. So on November the 8th, I'm asking you to vote. And if you are not registered to vote, why on earth would you want to miss out on all this fun? Oh, it's going to get interesting really soon. You're going to hear a lot. And I'm going to tell you something. Cleaning our great city up, making sure that all have access to the economic growth that the city has experienced, doing away with youth poverty and the lack of mental health resources, interrupting the patterns of behavior for so many addicted families across this city. It's going to take real leadership, and this is no joking matter. Now more than ever, I'm asking Washingtonians to stand up, usher in change by writing in Rhonda Hamilton on November the 8th. That's R-H-O-N-D-A. I look forward to meeting you on the campaign trail. And hey, DC, stop with all that looking to the left and the right and not greeting one another. We are a city of love, and we will return to being a city of love. So when you see us on the campaign trail, expect to be greeted. It's the human thing to do. I'm Rhonda Hamilton, and I'm asking you to write me in on November the 8th so that we can get back to the DC that we all know and love. I am DC. You are DC. And together we will forge forward with beautiful change and a city that we can be proud of again. Talk to you soon. See you on the campaign trail. Vote November the 8th for Rhonda Hamilton, R-H-O-N-D-A. It's going to take all of us.